Welcome to the High Adventure Scouting Podcast. This is the source for all things high adventure for scouts, scouters, and anyone else interested in promoting high adventure trips for our youth. You can find all kinds of great high adventure options for your scouts at highadventurescouting.com. We are constantly updating the list of cool trips, and we want your input on your best trip. Welcome, high adventure enthusiasts. We are excited, as always, to highlight a high adventure base on this edition of the High Adventure Scouting Podcast. Today, we're joined by Alan Percy from Birchbark Expeditions, and they are with the Greater Niagara Frontier Council. Okay, last time we talked about Birchbark Expeditions. Now, if listeners want an overview of this program, go ahead and check out that episode for all the awesome details. Now, this time around, I want to know about updates for 2022, and even what happened in 2021, and what's going to look like next couple of years for this particular program. So, again, I appreciate Alan joining us and kind of giving us some information on that. So, really, let's try 2021. What did 2021 look like after going through a kind of the everything canceled in 2020? What did your program look like last year?
Sure. No, that's a great question. We, like most programs, we had to completely scrub 2020. That was very disappointing. We really were faced with a quandary, which is, what do we do for 2021? And after much consideration, we decided to temporarily move the program to the Adirondacks, which is in the northern section of New York State. A very similar environment to where we normally run the program up in Algonquin, maybe a little bit less wild, but definitely it's more mountainous and it's actually easier to get, it's easier to make decisions about where to go and where to stay in the Adirondacks than it actually is in Algonquin. One of the beauties of Algonquin is it's very, very wild and very isolated, but that's done through a permit system, and there's X number of campsites on a lake, and to stay on that lake you have to have a permit, and there's only so many permits per lake. The Adirondacks are a completely different story. We could basically go anywhere we'd like, as long as we follow some other rules, right? Some basic rules of unit group size, those kinds of things. So we made that shift to the Adirondacks in 2021, and we had a lot of COVID protocols and et cetera. As we got closer and closer, a lot of those restrictions got lifted, and we were fortunate to run a full program with all of our units in 2021 out of Camp Mountaineer, which is one of the properties on the Massawepie Scout Reservation. So we're across the lake from a traditional Boy Scout camp, sharing the lake, but we had all our own facilities. We're able to operate out of a number of campsites over in Camp Mountaineer, and it worked out really, really well. And we got a chance to explore some parts of the Adirondacks that some of us have never seen, and it worked out great for this last year.
It's funny you mentioned Massawepie. I actually talked to them not too long ago. So
yeah,
I'm impressed with all the stuff in that part of New York State. It's just amazing there's so much to do up in that part of the country. And everybody thinks of New York, you think of the city. You don't think of there's a whole lot of New York outside of Manhattan and the 5 boroughs. So one of these days I'm going to get up that direction, because there's just so much there, and it sounds cool. So,
well, we'd love to have you.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith has told me I have to take a few, at least a summer off. So I'm.
Yeah. Yep.
Now I know there's as we're speaking, we're kind of in a December time frame right now, doing this kind of update. What I know it's difficult to get across the Canadian border. So do you guys see any relaxation in that, or is it just you're going to kind of go with the Adirondacks for the time being until they decide to change that?
Yeah, so right, I just can't fathom trying to get 12 youth across the border right now,
Right. Exactly.
get them tested within 72 hours, and go through the gauntlet of getting them into Canada. Um, so what we've decided to do for 2022 is we are going to again run the program the Adirondacks, and we'll continue to do so until two things happen. One of them is the Canadian government lifts the testing requirements. That would just be too difficult. Some of the online paperwork we probably could handle, but the testing just would be untenable. And then the other thing
Yeah.
is that the National BSA has still um, denied any request to go international for international scouting,
Right.
so that
Right.
is off the table. So until those two things are lifted, we're going to stay up in the Adirondacks. And honestly, it's been a great experience. It's been almost the same, except for the participants don't get the chance to go to another country that has different money and
Hmm.
has has some different history, right, with the French explorers and the trappers and some of that. So in the Adirondacks, of course, we have Native American community that we use as part of our cultural program. So yeah, it's different, but a very comparable program for 2022.
Great. Great. I hope those things change. When we went to Philmont this past summer, New Mexico is about as restrictive as Canada. So we had to get that testing done within 5 to 7 days. So we had to do that before we went in to Philmont and had to produce that. So it was a pain in the
Hmm.
butt, I will have to say.
Hmm.
So I can't imagine
Yeah,
doing that for many programs, and for sure. So
especially a full-blown PCR test for 72 hours. I mean, there's a lot
takes
of
that long.
people here that have,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of people here that, here in the Western New York area that own property across to the border, and they have to jump through a lot of hoops to get back and forth. So we're just going to deal with that
Mhm.
until we get past all this.
I'm not sure that you could even get the results in 72 hours from, say, a Walgreens or somewhere. It a lot of times it takes that long,
Yeah,
so that's a
yeah,
that's a
that's
pain.
part of
So
the problem. Yeah,
that's right.
exactly.
That's right. So for the time being, it sounds like you'll kind of stay at Adirondacks until things change. And what kind of stuff do you guys have? Anything different outside of what you did last summer in the Adirondacks?
Yeah, no, it's great. So of course, the first year going up there, it was a bit of a scramble, right? We had to find resources to help people plan their treks, and we had to get oriented. The guides that work with us, they're all volunteers. They've been with us for years and years, and they know Algonquin like the back of their hand. So to move to a different place, well, there was a lot of orientation that we needed. And one of the nice things is we brought a couple of new guides into the group that know the Adirondacks really, really well, and they helped get a lot of the rest of the guides up to snuff. Plus, they help with the crews that are planning their treks. So we've gotten some new resources, some new books, some new maps, and some new people who've got a lot of familiarity with the area. In addition to that, too, we'd like to have one afternoon that is a cultural activity. And treks normally would have a Saturday or Sunday as part of their trek that they would spend some time at a museum or some time at a cultural area up in Canada. So we took that same thing, we did it for the Adirondacks, and we found some properties. One of them is the ESF school that uh, the state operates for rangers, the Ranger
Hmm.
School. We also send people off to the Wild Center, which is a really comprehensive museum and immersion sort of experience into the Adirondacks. There's the Six Nations Museum, and they can also just decide they want to climb one of the peaks in the area of where we are. So there's lots of options for crews to really get a chance to absorb the Adirondack region, which is a real treat.
We all know the major high adventure bases around the country, and they offer some awesome programs. Have you been searching for a cool alternative? from your typical high adventure trip? As a scout leader, I want to give our scouts some great alternatives. You need to check out highadventurescouting.com. You'll find information on over 30 different council high adventure bases in 24 states. Maybe you're looking for a do-it-yourself option and need some ideas. Maybe you've taken a great trip and you want to share your good fortune with your fellow scouts and scouters. Just send us the details and we'll publish your trip. Whatever your interest, highadventurescouting.com is the one-stop shop for all things high adventure. That's highadventurescouting.com. Now, what kind of looking where we're at right now, what kind of open spots do you guys have for 2022, or do you have anything open
Sure.
for that?
Yeah, no, we do. And one of the this next year in 2022 we're gonna operate for 4 weeks, and there are a maximum of 5 crews per week. We have equipment for 5 full crews, and we're going to operate from July 9th through the 16th, from 16th to the 23rd, 23rd to the 30th, and 30th through August 6th. And at this point, we've got a lot of availability. We just had our information night for units in the area here, and we got some verbals. But at this point, there's pretty good availability. And generally, what happens is crews would sign up for one of the weeks. They, like I said, either one or more crew slots that they would take based on their group size, and then sign up online. There's a request a reservation button, and we usually from that will then lock somebody in with a deposit. So there's quite a bit of availability for this upcoming year at this point, and here we are, late December.
All right. So you start on a Saturday, kind of have Sunday training, and then Monday you're out on the water. Correct?
Yep. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
come back on Friday, and
Yeah.
then leave on Saturday, I assume,
Yeah, the agenda we're using for up in the Adirondacks is we want you in base camp by 1 o'clock on Saturday,
okay. Oh,
fed.
Saturday. Okay.
Yeah, so we hope crews or show up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 1 o'clock, having just had lunch. And then we spend most of that afternoon either training or packing food or doing the health checks and some of the other, I don't call it homework that needs to be done. And then Saturday night, we have the guides prepare a meal in base camp for the crews. And then Sunday morning, there's a little bit more training, maybe finishing up some of the stuff that didn't happen on Saturday. And then they've got some free time in the afternoon to do their cultural activity. And again, we give them a set of choices. And by the way, the cost of all those cultural activities is included in the program. So if someone wants to go to the Wild Center, we take care of making the reservations and paying for it, so they don't have to. There's no out of pocket on that.
Awesome.
And then usually Sunday night, they're going to actually prepare their first backcountry meal with the supervision of a guide, so that they get comfortable with the cooking equipment and the stoves and the Kelly kettles and some of the other equipment. And then breakfast. Usually they choose breakfast. Honestly, I think almost every crew chooses Pop Tarts for their breakfast. Mostly because it's not granola and it's not oatmeal, and it's the perfect meal to have while you're still in base camp because it's heavy and it's bulky.
Exactly.
So and then they head out. It's Monday morning. They head out to the put in, and then from then on, they're working out of their backcountry equipment and of course their food. And we go pick them up on Friday, wherever their destination is. And there's some flexibility, by the way, on this treks too. We've had people come say, "Hey, can we shorten our trek by a day, but then go do some high peaks?" And we said, "Yeah, that's fine. We have the logistics to handle that, but we're pretty open to customizing, and that's the beauty of the whole program. It's very flexible."
Um, well, for this next year, do you have anything that we haven't really covered? The stuff coming up. Sounds like we've done most of it, but what have we left out? Anything?
Yeah, so one of the things that we just put on our YouTube channel, our information night recording, which goes into great detail on not only our traditional 7-day program, but we also talk about we call it Western New York Waterways program, which is basically a starter program for somebody who's interested in canoeing. So we take units here in Western New York down like the Buffalo River is a very popular one. There's Oak Orchard Creek, which is very popular. We got the Niagara River. We got all kinds of different options for waterways around here. But I'd encourage people to go find a Birchbark Expeditions on the YouTube channel, and that's there's a lot of information there, including that most recent meeting recording, and that really tells you everything, gory detail about what's going to happen this next year in 2022.
Perfect. Perfect. I will post that out on the Facebook page, definitely.
That'd be
So
great.
so everybody can see that. So perfect. Well, Alan, I want to thank you for joining us today and kind of giving us an overview of what's coming up for 2022.
Hey, appreciate it. And again, anyone has any questions or thoughts, just wnyscouting.org/birchbark is the place to see all the answers.
And you beat me to it. I had that I was going to talk about. So,
Good.
well, I want to thank Alan Percy from Birchbark Expeditions for joining us today. As he mentioned, you can get more information on their programs at wnyscouting.org/birchbark. That's wnyscouting.org/birchbark. Thanks for joining us today, and remember to tell your friends about this podcast. You can find us online at highadventurescouting.com, on Facebook or Instagram. If you have any questions or ideas for future podcasts, just email us at info@highadventurescouting.com. This podcast and website are independent and not affiliated with any youth organization. Happy high adventure! This has been a production of High Adventure Resources.